So next product up is DaVinci Resolve. We've done a huge update to DaVinci, and what we've done is we've basically integrated Fusion in. Not only does Fusion get a big update, but also it lives well inside DaVinci. Editors get a chance to add, essentially construct effects, but you've got a whole lot of other advantages because Fusion's actually inside there. I mean, this comes back to what Blackmagic exists to do. This company was founded to empower creativity. If you looked at the post-production industry back in the sort of 90s and earlier, what shocked me, it was a very heavy power structure. It was pretty much the guy who could get a bank loan was the guy who had owned the post house. And you had all these wonderful creative people who worked so hard, but they had, they were just sort of crushed under this hierarchy of kind of even technology often too, of people talking about technology. So, to us putting Fusion into DaVinci, I don't actually know what it's going to mean. I don't know quite what people are going to do with it, but there's so many things you can play with as you're using it. It's really quite exciting. The possibilities are kind of slightly unknown, but you've got now the ability to build incredibly complex visual effects, but we also get titling and paint by default because that's all in there. So it's a huge amount of work. I mean, the guys have done an extraordinary job. As you can see, the interface is much nicer looking, but so it's a nice, more modern UI now, but it really works very well inside DaVinci. Remember, DaVinci collaborates, so being able to bring everyone together, I think, is a really important thing as well. But I think that we saw when we beefed up the editing and we started getting people using DaVinci for editing, a lot of those editors end up becoming colorists, and they sort of drifted into color because they could. And I'm interested to see what happens now, whether people drift out of editing into visual effects, and it doesn't have to be so demarcated. People are more free now to move around and try things. So I think it'll be really interesting. We've also done a lot of updates to the Fairlight page. We've got ADR support and a whole bunch of other things. Particularly needed to sort of finish off a few things like that to be able to support the consoles. We've also got some nice updates to the edit page, and also we've done some more stuff on the color page, particularly on the LUT browsing. We've got a visual LUT browser and some more effects, some film repair tools, things like that. Because remember, DaVinci Resolve is also the host for the film scanner, so there's a lot of archive content coming in, and people need to try and match that up a bit. And of course, it all collaborates. You can have multiple seats. You can have different people coming and using one seat. Sometimes the colorist will come over and do some work on the edit by sitting down, and the editor walks off and has a coffee. Sometimes they can work together. You can start small and just grow. And that's what it's all about. We're creating freedom here, and people need to be free. So people collaborating or not collaborating or switching seats on the same system, it's up to the people who are using it to decide that. It's not up to us. We're just essentially trying to create as much possibility for freedom as we can. So what I'll do is, this is the bit where I screw everything up because I'm not a demo guy, but I was going to show you just quickly a few things, sort of how this works. So we've got, if we can switch over to DaVinci, here it is, and I've got a timeline open, and you can see I've got an edit, the thumb's positioned on a clip. Now, if you haven't seen DaVinci before, what's interesting about this is you can go to the color page, and it's the same position in the edit. If I go to the Fairlight page, it's the same position in the edit. I'm just a single click away from anything. If I go to the Deliver page, this is where you do your exporting out to various Netflix or QuickTime Movies or YouTube, whatever you need to do. It's all just a click away. And now when you go to Fusion, it's the same thing. It's just a click away. And you can see there, the left node is actually the video input from the edit page, and the output is on the right-hand side. So she really does a lot of announcements, this lady, isn't it? So basically what happens is the video comes in on the left-hand side, it just connects out to the output side, and then goes back out to the timeline. So what we do, if we want to do something, all we have to do is put it in that line. So if I want to look at some effects, it's really quite simple, and it's worth just pointing out how it works. So I've got a few different effects here, and I can, for example, select this grid warp, drop it down into this line, and now it's put this grid warp in line. So to sort of demonstrate how that works, say if I kind of tweak, this actress isn't going to like what I'm doing to her face, but now I go back to the edit page, and it's there, see? So there's no import exporting. She's going to be very angry. But there's no import exporting, there's nothing. It's just all there. It just all coexists in the same app. So if I go back to the Fusion page, I can delete this. Now that's a 2D composition. It's coming in 2D, it's going through a 2D filter and going out as 2D, but Fusion is actually a 3D program. So there's also some tools along here. I can select tools in here, and I can also shift click There's a whole bunch of tools. You can search the tools. You can see it's got a lot of, but it's like basically Lego bricks. You're really just building filters like Lego bricks. In the old days when I used to work in post-production, these would be separate processing devices and you plug video cables between them. It's pretty much the same thing. It's like wiring up equipment. So for example, if I wanted to go into 3D space, I can put an image plane here and connect it in. And now, if you want to look at any node, these two viewers here, if you click a 1, it puts it up in the left viewer. If you click 2, it goes into the right viewer. So you can kind of look at different nodes, almost probe them and see what's going on. Now, if I go up into here, you can see that I can move around in 3D space, and that image is now in 3D space. So say, for example, if I wanted to put a title in, I can put a 3D title in over here, and I'll look at that in the right view by clicking 2. There's my title, and I can move that around in sort of 3D space. And now, you know, I'm kind of in 3D space, so if I wanted to, say, compose those back together again, then I just use a 3D merge tool. This is a very common tool where you basically, it's like the compositing section. And now if I click on that, I can now see that I've got these two items in 3D space. And all I have to do, that's a 3D space thing, so if I want to go back to 2D space, I just convert that to 2D space in this render node and I drop it down. Actually, I'll delete that link there. I'll drop it down there. And then I'll look at that output. And there I am. Now my text is a little big, but if I go back to the edit page, there it is. I mean, so I've just built something. I mean, obviously this is pretty simple. There's particles and all. I mean, they've got a particle generator and a particle renderer, and you can put other gravitational effects in the line between them and create like turbulence plug nodes, or you can have like gravity nodes and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it really is quite amazing watching them. It's very granular because, of course, it's been a high end effects tool used in you know, LA and on major feature films. What I think is exciting has been putting this into here. So, you know, say if I want to go back and adjust something, because my text is really very big, I just have to click on the node, and I can come across here and reduce the size a little. Now, I'm not really a visual effects guy. I'm just doing something very, very simple. But when I go back, it's just there. I mean, it's like constructing effects. So what does that mean? Well, I think from the point of view of an editor, you just see it as sort of either a sort of an effects builder. But for a visual effects person, it's still a very powerful visual effects environment. And the scripting also works. So all the Fusion scripting still works. So this is, you know, for young kids who are coding and are used to coding, you can actually, they might even find it nicer to script the stuff. So I don't know what kind of blend of technology and creativity is going to come together with this. I'm fascinated to find out. We've done no market research on this. We never do user studies or, you know, any of that stuff. So we have no idea what's going to happen. We just do these things and think it sounds right. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. So that's kind of how it works. And the other cool thing is that by being inside Fusion, if I bring on these, this clip browser, you might recognize this clip browser from the color page. You can click between the different shots, and it'll just switch between the compositions. So there's the advantage of having Fusion inside DaVinci. You just move up and down a massive edit. It could be a feature film. You're just clicking on the various various compositions. They're all just there. Also, you can load in Fusion projects from the previous Fusion into this as well. And Fairlight also allows you to load Fairlight projects in as well. So we haven't abandoned the older generations of software. You can bring those projects in. So I'll quickly move through a couple of other things. In the edit page, we've got subtitles now. So if I move to a subtitle, we can import an SRT file into subtitles. And the great thing is when you render that out, you can take it out to HTML or SRT files or burn it in. There's quite a lot of flexibility because different deliverables like QuickTime movies and things like that, you might want to, the user actually selects on and off the caption. So you've got a lot of power in how you export that out. The other thing we've got is we've got tabbed timelines. There's a really good video that'll be on the website when it changes over after the press conference. It goes into quite a lot of detail. The what's new in DaVinci video is a bit longer than normal because it spends a bit of time in some of these areas. But we've got tabbed timelines. You can also come over here and add an extra timeline layer. And if you need to, you can copy and paste between timelines. So that's kind of a cool thing as well. The other thing that I think is really quite nice, if you look in the effects library, in the title section here, these are actually Fusion compositions. So one of the great things is if you're an editor, you don't particularly maybe want to know about Fusion. So we've got a bunch of the Fusion title effects and we've built them as compositions and put them in the title section of the edit page. So if you drop them in, it's a Fusion composition, but you have no idea that it is. To you, it's just a plugin that does titling. So we've got a timeline here with titles in it. And if you scroll up and down, you can see got a bunch of different wacky and kind of strange and wacky titles. They're actually Fusion compositions. When you drop them in the timeline, you update the text. Over in the Fusion page, it's a composition. So it's quite interesting. Also, we've got annotations and notes and other benefits that the larger facilities need. Over on the Fairlight page, I'll click over here. We've now got ADR support, which isn't there. But basically, you can load a list in. I might be on the wrong timeline, actually. But anyway, you can load a list in, and you can bring it as a comma or tab-separated text files. And you can have all your dialogue in there, and you can just basically do all your voiceovers. The other thing that we've got is we've got a lot of effects that we've added, some really quite nice ones. If I go to, how do I change the timeline to, where is it? Oh, there it is. That's the one, I want that one. That looks better. So in fact, I might, if I go back, I can show you, there it is. There's the dialogue, so you can see there. So you can load the list in and you can do all the dialogue stuff, and you can record in the dialogue while it's playing back the thing. So I'll turn that off and I'll go back over to the effects library. Now we've got a whole bunch of really nice effects. One of the problems is DaVinci's on Mac, Windows and Linux, and a lot of the open plugins only work on Mac and Windows. So we've done a bunch of built-in effects so that you can move them between platforms and you get a similar experience between them. If you're running the large Fairlight console, you might actually have a Linux machine running that, and then you've got a bunch of guys using Macs. It really varies, even within the same facility. So you've got to be able to move the project backwards and forwards. You've got to have some commonality in the tool sets between the platforms. So we've got that. Like, for example, if I drop a noise reduction down here, here's the noise reduction filter. They've all got beautiful UIs, like the echo or the reverb tool's got like a room size. You can change your room size and get the different effects. This is a noise reduction tool. It'll actively analyze the noise profile. There's hum removers. There's all kinds of other stuff in here. But I won't really spend a lot of time because I know we don't have a lot of time. The other thing too, just before I leave here, we've got like fixed playhead now. So you can, this is particularly good when you're running on the large console. And also if you're doing a lot more audio work, we've got like video and audio scrollers, so you can run those.
Aid, identify the person I'm speaking with.
Although the video scroller isn't playing, I don't know why. So there's a lot more features in there. And on the color side, just to finish up, on the color page, we've got LUT browser now. You can see how they work. This is actually a list of the LUTs that are built in here. And you can just browse by scrolling around them. You can see what your clip will look like through different LUTs. And also over here in the effects side, we've got a, oh, that was already open. See, I'm not the slick demo guy. We've got a bunch of filters that have been added in there, and also for like film, like dust and scratch and some of those other things as well. So that's pretty much resolved, but it's definitely worth checking out the videos on the website to get a really good in-depth view of what we've done. This is just a quick overview. Right, if we can go back to the slides, I can keep going. So DaVinci Resolve 15 is free. It's a public beta today, and a lot of this stuff will be in there. Some of the advanced, a couple of the advanced things won't. They'll be in the paid version, but the paid version's only $2.99, so it's not really very unaffordable, that's for sure. The other thing I wanted to talk about quickly is the Fairlight consoles. We've had to redesign and rebuild the Fairlight console. It really wasn't manufacturable in the form when we acquired Fairlight, so we've been working hard on that. Also, again, we want to be able to enhance, empower creativity. So what we've done is we've built them in modules, and you can buy the individual items as modules and bolt them together any way you want. So you can buy the chassis and put whatever modules in you like. So for example, you can see we've got the different, the edit controller and some of the modules. They're much cheaper. The screen, for example, the LCD, we've had to upgrade. It's brighter, it's higher resolution, but also it, funny enough, runs the camera operating system. So the one you see on the front of the booth is running the camera operating system, and it's got Ethernet, it's got SDI and HDMI. Depending what you plug in is depending how it behaves. So if you plug video in, it's a video monitor. If you plug Ethernet in, it talks to DaVinci and becomes the channel control graphics screen for those channels on the console. So it's quite flexible, and I think you could start off small and add more. You could put a large bay in and add more modules. It's really up to the customer to decide how they want to handle that. You can see the benefits of our work. This is the edit controller part of the console that we acquired when we bought Fairlight. This is our version of it. So you can see the graphics have been dramatically enhanced, and it's much more effort in the manufacturability of it as well. Now, we've got some prices. The 2-bay configured here with the fader panel and the fader control and 2 screens and the edit controller will be $21,995. That's fully fitted. So this is the bundle price if you bought all the setup as a bundle. The 3-bay will be just under $30,000, and the 5-bay will be just under $50,000, which is, basically it's $49,000. So that'll be available in a few months.